Well, see, we get back one of our favorite guests on R2C2. Man, this might be our only ever four-timer, I think.
Yeah, this is the only time we get a four-timer for sure.
Yeah, I think that's it. Aaron, I mean, come on, man. You're our first four-time guest.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. It doesn't feel like that. So always good to come on with you guys. You must be searching for some guests here in the winter if you're dragging.
No. We've been wanting to do this for a while, and we appreciate you coming on and chopping it up with us as we get closer into more of the action of the off season. First and foremost, we know you're struggling today, so we appreciate you battling through injury to be with us after handing out all those turkeys.
Man, last night my back locked up on me, so this morning I'm in here getting it worked on and limped down to my desk and I'm on with you guys, but I'll be fine. I'll grind through it.
It's probably the golf too. That's why. That's what messed you up.
I think add it all up. I played golf, which I haven't done a lot, and doing that 5 days in a row, and then coming back and doing different things. Yeah, 48 caught up to me this week.
You know what's funny too? Do you remember when you're a kid and you see like an adult with a hurt back and you're wondering well, why is it so restrictive? Like why? And then you experience a locked up back and you're like, oh my gosh, like you can't do anything. It is so debilitating.
It is. And you know what I was thinking as the day was unfolding yesterday, I'm getting into these weird positions or whatever. I'm like, this might, it started up on me. And then when I got home last night, my kids are helping me up off the couch. I'm just like,
oh gosh.
But what do you do? I was able to get, I slept. I'm all right.
All right. But you got a world-class performance team with you there. Yeah. So I'm wondering, now maybe they're not all there right now, but what's the move? Because I'm sure we have people with back trouble that want to know what's a key when you have a good performance team around you. How do we get you back to health?
Well, I came in and did a bunch of exercises that were a little more difficult than I expected. I was expecting good stuff getting worked on today, but it was a little more proactive. Like he was making me activate different muscles and stuff. But I'm actually going to try and get in the gym after this and see what I can pull off. And then he sent me home with some good vitamins.
Oh yeah, there you go.
There you go. That's okay.
That's the most important thing right there.
Little muscle relaxer before bed will help.
You know what's crazy is that like the first year, this is the second year I retired, but in 2020, like anything that would happen, I would always call Stevie a shuck. If I got like a runny nose, anything happened with the family, I'm immediately calling the stadium, like coming down here. Stevie was coming to my house all the time, like playing baseball for so long, you don't have any doctors. Like the trainer, the training staff, everything happens at the stadium. So that first year, everything that was happening, I was just calling Stevie and Shuck, like emergency room.
Yeah, and it'll continue too. Anything that goes on with your kids, whatever. Yeah, let me run it by Shuck. And we'll do what we need to do.
Little C had a blister from hitting. Stevie came over and fixed it for him.
It's that on-demand medical service that you get from being in the big leagues that long. That is fantastic. Aaron, what for you, when you're in the off season, what's kind of the balance for you of your daily engagement with your guys, building out a staff, building out your roster, free agency, trades, whatever. And then also you have 4 kids, being a dad in the off season and trying to balance that. What do your days look like this time of year?
Yeah. So I usually come into the park at least a couple days a week, sometimes more. The part of October and the early part of November were kind of spent. We were doing a boatload of like interviews, whether it was in-person interviews or Zoom interviews, because this year, we had to fill out more staff than normal. So that took on a focal point here at work. Now that we're kind of getting that part dialed in, when I come in here, it's more just, I'll pop into the front office, see what they're talking about as far as different moves, transactions that different trades they're looking at, things like that. I connect with people that are in, we got Jamison Tyone that's been coming in every day. Training staff here, Rob and Louie are here. So there's things to do. And then, just keeping in contact with players and stuff as far as text message. As far as being at home, kids and their sports, my two boys are playing high school football. So that's actually been a lot of fun to go to those games and, Friday night lights and Saturday games. Bella's playing soccer. I got a college guy now that's playing soccer. So I got a couple of those games. So trying to just strike that balance of making up for some family time that you lose out on during the season when you get really busy. But just trying to strike that balance here in the off season.
See, how did you, because you also have 4 kids, and, I know that like one of the things you've loved in retirement is being the full-time baseball dad. What kind of, because, I'm a new parent, so I think about these things now because I have a crazy travel schedule, similar to what you guys experience as far as the travel goes. Your actual jobs, I'd say, are more demanding, but the travel's similar. The travel's similar. What kind of conversations would you have with the kids as you were, maybe towards the later stages of your career and you're playing? They have things going on. They're maybe a little more conscious of you not being at things, but they also maybe are somewhat understanding too of why you're not. What were those convos like?
Yeah, my kids had grown up in baseball, like they grew up in baseball. So all they ever known was me not being there. So it wasn't any like weird convos. Like they just knew like from February to most of October, I'm gonna be gone. You know what I mean? So anything in between that, Dad's probably not gonna be there. So, now it's a lot more fun. My kids, Sai is a big dancer, Karsten's, baseball player. Jaden plays basketball. So Sai is excited for me to go to her dance competition at Disney and, all these different things. Yeah. Now I get to have these conversations with her where before she wouldn't even talk to me about it because she knew I wasn't going to be there. You know what I'm saying? So being able to be there now, every day and not miss anything, helps me feel like I kind of making up for, the 19 years or the 18 years I wasn't there for little C,
How about for you, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, you hate missing out on some of the things that C's finding he gets to be a part of now. That's where in this time of year, in the fall and in the winter, anytime I can, get to a game, it's meaningful. It means a lot, hopefully to them. Hopefully they like having me there and around, whatever. But I've loved it. I love getting to go to their games whenever I can. We'll take some trips, and I was just telling you guys before, a couple of my boys will be in on going down to a Eagles or a Sixers game that we'll kind of parlay a weekend into. But those are the things that, build those bonds that you have with your kids and that are important things to do together. And this time of year, even though, I'm still fairly busy, but it's a lot more, I can make my own schedule. It's important because of the grind of the season that I do get some quality time with them.
I will say that, like, when I was playing or, when it's the off season, you put more emphasis on being at everything. Like, you don't want to miss anything. Like, when you have the time, whether it was little C or Sai or whatever, like, I'm going to everything. I'm at everything. Now that I can go to everything, I pick and choose what I want to go to.
That's true. That's the pleasure.
There's certain events maybe Dad can skip then.
Yes, now I can skip because I'm at everything else. Before I couldn't skip anything because I wasn't at anything. Now I get to, I can pick and choose what I don't want to go to.
Yeah. Aaron, how about, like, your job is obviously one that garners tons of scrutiny and attention, right? How do you, because we actually talked about this on the field at one game I was doing this year, how you have this very, I think, just like great, even keel demeanor where I rarely can tell that you're getting upset at something, even if you're being kind of, questioned harshly or whatever. I can't think of many times where I'm like, oh, he's, Booney sounds pissed. Like, you do a pretty good job, which I guess is part of the job, but you do a pretty good job of maintaining that sort of calm presence. How do you do it? I mean, when you're in a job like this as manager of the New York Yankees, like, what are your personal keys for not losing your crap when someone's coming after you?
I tune a lot of it out, which I think you have to do being here. I think you have to, and look, I've always said it can look a lot of different ways. You don't have to be a certain way, like your personality and is what it is, but you got to know that you're walking into the lion's den a little bit, and that everything is going to be scrutinized fairly, unfairly, everything across the board. And if you can't handle that, or you don't have the makeup that's cut out for that, then you can't handle it, or you're not going to do it. And I think you walk into this knowing that that's part of it, and you're going to have to take some slings and arrows every now and then. But I'm human, so there's different things that ruffle my feathers, or that I hear. Maybe I think that's wrong, or that's unjust, or whatever. But for the most part, I understand that that's part of the gig, man. You just, and especially here, like, and even to having conversations with, players, my players now, like, and especially I think the influence that social media is now, you get so much of you can find whatever you want. You can find whatever echo chamber, whatever point of view you want. And you can feed yourself with positive, you can feed yourself with negative, and a lot of it's poisonous. And you got to be able to, especially I think if you're going to thrive here playing in New York, playing for the Yankees.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because you played here before there was social media. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's still a tough place to play. Do you think it's tougher now with all the social media and all the access people have to you? Or was it the same even while you played here? It's still the same media and same amount of people in the clubhouse every day?
Yeah. It's hard to say. The last couple of years with COVID, you've had more privacy as a player. We haven't had people in our clubhouse all the time, so there's that. But social media has become such this monster, and I'm not saying that necessarily in a good or bad way, but it's become so big that the old cliche of this guy in his basement gets to have an opinion now, like, that's real, and does have that opinion, and that becomes, and if you fan those flames or take and run with that becomes a storyline, and that can leak in. So I think it may be a little tougher now. I'm not sure of that, because I think there were times here where the daily cutthroat media, where the print media was uber competitive, and there were some tough days here where you had some dudes following you that were after you. I think sometimes that can be a little more fair now, but the scope of everything now, and because we're on our phones all the time, right? And players, I'll see our players, they come in right after the game, we're doing our belt ceremony, they're on their phone like this, so ready to read every and any comment. So it's definitely something that we talk about, and is a challenge, and especially playing here in this fishbowl that you're in here in New York.
Even just in my 11 years, but the short time that I played there when it wasn't any social media, it was easy just to walk by the newspaper, you know what I'm saying? Or turn off the TV. But when that shit's on your phone and that's the first thing you look at every day right after the game, like, it's hard not to read that shit. So it's got to be a little tougher now with the social media aspect.
You got to be disciplined to it. So I'll tell you, as you might imagine, like, I don't look at my mentions on my Twitter. Like, and that's like, I don't do that. So when I'm on Twitter, I'm just getting news, right?
Yeah.
Or following whatever I'm following, right? And I'm going to get what I need. But man, you start looking at those mentions, and you can look at them good or bad, and it can get you in trouble both ways, man. Like, one of the things that's been cool to see for me has been Giancarlo, to see his evolution as a player here, to see how he's learned how to navigate all this. Because he obviously comes in as an MVP. He comes in making a lot of money, but he's been he's drawing the ire of the fan pretty early and often.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he could have a homer and a double and take a funky swing on strike 2, and they're ready to give it to him here.
Yeah.
He's been a great example of watching him navigate this, watching him learn how to, survive and now really thrive in here in this environment, because he's just developed a really strong routine and a process that he goes through that, man, when he steps between those lines, it's about his performance, and he has the confidence in how he's prepared to go out there and be successful and not be swayed by adoring fan or a fan that wants to give it to him. He understands that, you gotta thrive regardless. And he's been a really cool example to see, and hopefully, and he's starting to become a leader a little bit in that way in our room.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, Aaron. Are there things that he has done in his process that he is now preaching to other guys there?
He is. And, he is, he's obviously, as you guys know, he's not a real vocal guy.
Right.
He's even a little shy, and, but he's started to step up from a vocal standpoint. And I think it's just because he's been through so much as a Yankee already in 4 years, and he's really learned how to thrive here. And I've really developed a great amount of respect for him, seeing him go through all this, navigate it, and now start to really try and voice it to some of his teammates. And you know what? I think you saw it manifested when we played the Mets. Mm-hmm. Remember when he went around, he got on Lindor?
Yeah.
He would have never did that.
No. And I think part of it was him saying, "You think you've had it rough? Walk in my the last few. Save it." I think he was kind of saying to him, like, you got to have broad shoulders to play here, especially when you're a dude, when you're a guy.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to handle a lot. And to see him learn how to do that and really use it as, I think now, a positive, has been fun to witness.
Showing up in New York as a guy is hard to do, bro. Like, no matter who you are, like when you come with credentials and you come to the Yankees, they expect you to lay that all out for them in the Bronx too. You know what I'm saying? Right away, game one. So yeah, him being able to navigate that, just, him putting up good numbers and putting up good years, guys are going to go to him just they're going to gravitate towards him. Now, you know what I'm saying, in that clubhouse, just because he's been through the fire, like you said, and so much in the last 4 years, they can just naturally, he's going to become a leader, and everybody's going to look to him because he's been through all the tough shit. It's easy to play a Yankee, to be a Yankee when everybody loves you. But when you're going through the tough shit, like what A-Rod had to go through and what Big G's going through or went through, then guys really want to know how you're doing it. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you become a big leader in the clubhouse.
And that's, as you know, I mean, you're going to the Hall of Fame. You can have great success in this game, but as I always say, like, adversity's coming for you, man. Mm-hmm. And every season it's coming for you. I don't care how good of a season you have, and how you deal with that and handle that ultimately determines what your ceiling's going to be, how much better you're going to continue to get. But I also think people are always, whether it's intently or even subconsciously, watching how you handle those kind of things. And I think that's really where you earn the respect of the people around you and your teammates.
Well, this is why I've said on this pod before, Aaron, I don't ever want to hear the slightest feint of a boo for Giancarlo Stanton ever again from the Yankee fans, because this guy has become, he's become the most ridiculously clutch performer. The way he performed in big spots for you guys down the stretch, it was absurd. I mean, it was like he literally would step in the box and you just expected him to hit a home run, and he essentially was. Like, think about even the loss to the Red Sox, right? Like, his at-bats were ridiculous in that game.
Well, Ryan, it goes back further than that too, because the thing that he's dealt with before this year, and it was cool to see him be able to go out there and stay mostly healthy. You know, he had a 3 on the DL, but otherwise he was healthy most of the year. You know, even going back to last year and the year before, like when he was healthy, he was playing really well. He just missed so much time. Think about the playoffs in 2020 against the Indians and the Rays. I mean, the two best pitching staffs in the playoffs probably that year, and he dominated. And you know, I think sometimes we look at Giancarlo because even when he's going really well, like, you know, he might have a couple big homers, but he's still going to take that messed up swing for strike 2 that never played before. And you're like, what the hell was that? And so it makes you think that he's struggling sometimes when maybe he's not always. He's the most different player I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I call him a unicorn because, you know, Marcus Timms and I look at each other almost every game, just catch eye contact because he's going to do something that you've never seen, whether it's hitting the ball 120 as a 2-iron somewhere or like getting jammed so bad that half his bat ends up on the back screen. Like he just does things that you never see on a baseball field.
It's the weirdest thing facing him too, because I faced him, you know, in inter squads or whatever early when he first came. He starts so late. Like when you let the ball go as a pitcher, you're like, he's not swinging, but he starts so late, like later than anybody I've ever seen. Like he still can get the barrel on the ball. It's so weird, man. Like you said, he does stuff that I've never seen people do. It's crazy.
Yeah. He's very disciplined to like his plan. And one of the things we've seen with him, and we kind of knew this early on, and the more he sees somebody, more so than almost any other player, like he processes what his experiences really well, but he's really good at sticking to his plan and what his thought process is going up there. And sometimes it can look a little off, but when he's right, man, it's really special.
No, Aaron, I wanted to ask you, sort of in the same vein of kind of navigating New York, controlling what you can control. There's these two perceptions that I think get brought up a lot. One is specific to you. One is specific to your position. And I think they both probably can be easily debunked by someone who's in the know. But that's not necessarily everyone who has a microphone or a pen or, you know, just an opinion. So one is that, Aaron's too laid back. He needs to light a fire under. I know you hear this. He needs to light a fire under these guys' ass. And you know, I'll hear, no, you know, Boone gets after us. He just does in the clubhouse, not doing it in the media to us, you know? And then the other is like, the front office, they write the lineup, they dictate everything. It's all analytics driven. Like Aaron doesn't have a say. He doesn't have a say. And I know you've been asked about this before, but these are two perceptions that are out there, right? That either affect you or your job. For the first one, I'm wondering, like, is there ever a part of you that wants to say, like, put a camera inside the clubhouse? Like, this is what's actually going on. How do you maintain the discipline to say, you know, well, I'm still going to just do my job and not worry about people having this perception of me, even if I know it's not true?
Look, I think you got to have that discipline to have this job, to do this job. You can't get caught up in those things are going to be said about you anyway. Look, there's difficult conversations that have to be had. Sometimes they're in the room with the group. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's one-on-one and they're, you know, in my office or whatever. So those things happen. I would say overall, I'm probably a little more positive out front and certainly in the media. And I think part of that is I always look, playing here is different. Playing here, there's a handful of places that it's different here, whereas New York and playing for the Yankees, there is an extra pressure that comes with that. And I understand that from a player standpoint. And this place is going to hold you accountable. Mm-hmm. You don't need me more so than if I was, say, somewhere else, you know, Kansas City, Pitt, whatever it may be, where maybe you probably would publicly hold people a little more to account. New York's going to handle that for you. So I think one of my jobs is to make this and, this goes back to when CeCe was here. One of the things that's really important that we work really hard is this place. I want it to be a place that you want to come. Okay. This should be a place that you feel comfortable, safe, no matter what's going on in your season. You're having the best season of your career. You're struggling. You're going through something away from the field. Hopefully you look forward to walking through those doors. And we work hard to create that environment. Look, that doesn't mean inevitably you're not going to, we're going to get, we're going to yell and scream sometimes in there. We're going to yell and scream sometimes in my office. But overall, we work hard to this being an environment that you want to come. And part of that is New York. And then I am who I am. Like, I'm not, and I think that's important. Like, and I go back to, it can look a lot of different ways. I think it's important, though, that your players, your coaches, your staff see you as authentic, right?
Yeah.
I'm who I am. And if I'm going to be somebody else that I'm not, players are really good at seeing through that. And, I try and create a very consistent environment, and hopefully whether a player's and you're going to run through times where a player or a coach is upset with me or disagrees with the decision I've had to make or whatever, but hopefully they know when they walk in the doors that they're going to get somebody that's very consistent from who, if they walk in this door, they know who they're walking in to talk to.
And I mean, that's 100%. Like, players can see right through that 1,000%. So, from outside noise coming in saying that, oh, he needs to light a fire, and then you see him getting at somebody in the dugout, then we're all like, oh, that's bullshit. Like, that's fake. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all know Booney. Like, if Booney wanted to talk to you for real, it'd be in private. It wouldn't be, you know what I'm saying? Like he said, like, in New York, it's so hard to play. Like, you don't need the extra pressures of the guys that are around you every day to get on you. Like, you never heard me one time say, oh, this guy needs to do this better, or this guy needs, like, call better signs. No, like, we're all in this together. We understand how hard this is. So we don't need to get on each other. Like, if there's something that we need to say to each other privately, then that's for us. You know what I'm saying? Like, this place is everybody's so much into what we have going on that you have to keep some things private. And I think that's where a lot of people would get on Jeet all the time. Well, oh, he don't say nothing vocally. He don't say nothing this and that. Well, the fuck he didn't. He'll go talk to you right in front of your locker every day if he needed to. You know what I'm saying? He just didn't do it for the media or for anybody else to see. And I think that's, perfectly what Booney has done and what he's doing, as the manager.
That was the example I was thinking of, actually, was Derek, because that was always a criticism of his as captain, and that's exactly what his team would do.
But it was completely false, though.
Yeah,
it was completely false.
Right.
Because he would address everything, everything.
Right. Just ask Nick Swisher.
Just ask anybody. Shit.
So, Aaron, the other thing I brought up, the lineup. How would you describe the process of the way you, the front office, collaborate, come up with a lineup on a day-to-day, for as much as you're willing to share and dispel perceptions about this?
So no one's ever made a lineup for me. I made the lineup. Okay. Now, my process for making the lineup actually is a little bit different all the time. Like, there's the ebb and flow of the season. Let's assume everyone's healthy and we're not going to bed that night with we're waiting to find out if this guy's available tomorrow. So if our guys are available, a lot of times, I'll buzz by my coaches the night before going home, where we may have a thought. A lot of times it's usually with Mendy, where I'll just be like, what do you think about this guy in tomorrow? And we'll kind of bounce things off. When Marcus was here, sometimes I'd say, hey, what do you think of this guy in tomorrow, this guy out? What do you think about flipping these guys in the lineup? So that's usually how it starts. And then when I come in that day, usually I'll come into my office and Mendy will follow me in, and we'll kind of go through our, different things. If there's a little tweak that we want to make, sometimes I may reach out to, like, I've even done this with with Cash, and Cash is not usually very much involved at all in like lineup, or he'll just, who's playing today or who we got today.
Right.
But sometimes, if I have a tough decision that I'm really wrestling with, I may call Cash on it. I may call Mendy on my way home. I may call Marcus Thames when he was here on my way home. Like when there's that tough decision I have, when I'm thinking about, a different guy in tomorrow or sitting a guy for a day, when I may go to different people and ask their opinion on it. And then ultimately I got to decide which way I want to go. We have a very strong analytics department that gives us so much information that we kind of, helps us make decisions, gives context on what we're seeing, what we're looking at. And I think the reality is any of the really strong franchises are very strong analytically. But ultimately the teams that do it the best are able to, the secret sauce is how do you strike the balance? Mm-hmm. Because, every day is unique amongst itself, especially in a big league season where you're playing 162 games. So you've got to be able to strike the balance. But, as Cash puts it, we want to have a buffet of everything available to us so that we can make really good decisions. And I think we do that here, even though we get criticized about it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go see.
No. I was just going to say, you get criticized for anything you do here, so it don't matter.
Yeah. Unless we're holding that trophy at the end,
it's true.
Thing, and that goes for a lot of different teams and markets. Mm-hmm. Like, because the game has changed a lot, and because it looks different, even the last 5-10 years, we go through the playoffs and you see a lot more relievers used, a lot mm-hmm. more. So at the end, there's one winner, right? One winner did it right. Yeah. And a lot of times they did it similar to a lot of the teams in the playoffs. It just worked for them. And for everyone else, it didn't work. And that's not necessarily the case. Like it comes down to, ultimately who are the best players and the best teams, and clicking at that right time that hoists the trophy at the end. And
I mean, and then, you're looking at this year, it boiled down to Atlanta having one more starter than Houston did. That's all it was. They both used bullpen days. They both used bullpen days in the World Series. But Game 6, they had Max Fried. You know what I'm saying? They literally just had one more starter than Houston did, and that was the difference.
That was the difference. And Max Fried pitched Max Fried had struggled to that point in the playoffs, mm-hmm. and then he pitched like we've seen that dude pitch against us the last couple of years. Like, man, he looks like he's 12 years old out there, but that dude's pretty nasty.
Aaron, there's so many different angles to go with the analytics stuff, but want to obviously not waste too much of your time and get into some other things. How about just looking at the roster? Speaking of that, what are the areas of need where you're like, hey, like we definitely need an injection of this. We definitely need this. Like, I know you have to be careful with specific people and everything like that, but what are the things that sitting here right now, like, yeah, this is something we're going to have to do?
Well, we're going to need a shortstop. I mean, I think that, so however we get there, that's going to be the interesting thing of the offseason, because I think one move we make, sets off the dominoes, right? Like, do we look largely similar to what we've looked like the last year, or is there a blockbuster trade or a signing that all of a sudden now moves this guy out, trades this guy, and then that starts affecting everything else? So until we make a big significant move or splash, it's hard to know where we're going as an offseason. We know we got to make some tweaks. Again, like this year, I know was viewed negatively, obviously, because of our ups and downs and the struggles that it was, and obviously the early exit from the playoffs. So we're all kind of like pulling our hair out. But it's also important that, we won over 90 games in a really, really competitive division. And so it's about making the right tweaks and the right changes as opposed to just turning it all over. Because there were a lot of success stories this year. Like, our pitching staff overall was really strong this year. Like starters, ERA, relief pitchers, ERA. We saw really people coming of age, like Jonathan Weiziga becoming like a stud in the bullpen. Yeah. The biggest challenge for us this year was, when it comes right down to it, we didn't hit the way we have in the past several years. We are down a little bit offensively night in and night out for whatever reason. Some guys having a down year, an injury here, whatever it may be. So hopefully that corrects itself a little bit on its own. But I think it is going to be important for us to add the right pieces too that allow us to ultimately, we're trying to get over that hump, man. And sometimes it's the right move and not necessarily the amount of moves. But I think the next move is going to affect where we go from here, and the dominoes start falling from there.
Am I wrong to think that I feel like you guys, and maybe it comes in shortstop, but I felt for a while like you guys need an injection of athleticism. Like I need to see some more live bodies that would accentuate, I think, some of the strengths of the other guys on the team. Does that feel fair?
Yeah, and I think because offensively we were down a little bit this year, or had a little bit of a downturn, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, sudden, when we're not hitting the ball out of the ballpark or scoring as many runs as we're normally accustomed to, when you see, some of that lack of athleticism through those stretches, it just kind of highlights it, shines a light on it. So there were times this year where, we had some more athleticism in there. We had some more athleticism on the bench, especially later in the year, that I think was a factor in helping us win games. So I think one of the goals, certainly heading into this offseason and as it unfolds, is hopefully we do get a little more athletic in some of the moves that we make, and just makes us a little bit more well-rounded. Like, I always hear, a lot of times too, not necessarily this year, but in years where we've fallen, where we're ultimately where we end, right? We've had great offenses, but it's like, well, we swing and miss too much or this and that. And it's like, that's usually hasn't been the case. Like in 2020 in the postseason, going up against Cleveland and Tampa, like offense wasn't the problem. We scored plenty of runs against the best pitching staffs in the league. Mm-hmm. It's just, you look at sometimes the champion, that's like what you're shooting for. You're trying to become this quote unquote perfect team or perfect, more better offense. So where we have these shortcomings, I think sometimes people just think you push a button and, well, just make more contact or put the ball more in play. Well, the team that was doing that's the world champion because they were a cut above of us that year, which we're all working to be this more perfect union, right? This more perfect team. So, and it's hard to get that. And there's 29 other teams trying to get that.
From your experience when it comes to, I mean, obviously every championship team's got to have talent, right? We know this. Yeah. Start with you, C. From your experience, what's the most important factors of a clubhouse makeup on the best teams you've been
on? I mean, I think it just starts early in spring training and just a bunch of guys that want to pull for each other and have fun, and that are all pulling the rope the same way. So that's hard. Like when you have good clubhouse chemistry, you don't really notice it. But when you don't have it, you really notice when you don't have it. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're in a good clubhouse, it's just like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. When you're in a bad clubhouse or when you don't have any chemistry, you're like, holy shit, this sucks every day. You know what I'm saying? So it's weird and it changes from year to year. So, but for me, it's just trying to gel and mesh as early as we can in spring training, and get guys hanging out away from the park together. To get a better understanding of each other and their families and where guys come from, and it helps you just be a better teammate when you get out there and want to. You're trying to win a championship together.
And I think that's another one of those things too that can look a lot of different ways, right? Sometimes sometimes it's everyone gets along and loves each other, and sometimes it's you got kind of get after each other a little bit, but there's still like that closeness, right? And it does. So I do think when guys are spending time talking the game, outside the game, spending time with each other, that's a really good thing. And I really do feel like one of the challenges the last 2 years with COVID and just all the different things we've been dealing with, like that's been a little bit more of a challenge to just have normal, easy environment to naturally create that camaraderie. I do feel like in the second half of this season, I do feel like that started to happen more with this group, where they started to get closer and started to hold each other to account more and in a better way. And I think that happened really well for us in the second half because we're up, and partly because we're up against it a little bit. We knew we dug ourselves a hole, and like the whole second half of the season, like every game felt like must win.
Yeah,
and 62 game season, that's a little bit unique, but that's where we were. And I think the guys responded to that in the right kind of way, and hopefully is something that allows us to grow as a group moving forward.
And I think a guy like Sevy can help too. Sevy being back all year and being able to bounce around the clubhouse and move from different sectors, like he's close with everybody. So I think a guy like him can help bring the clubhouse closer too, for sure.
I agree, and Sevy was out for so long. To get him back at the end of the season and to like, it was cool to see his hunger in coming back. And obviously he only came back in the bullpen for us, but like he was popping in every day, like, give me the ball. And it was fun to see him. Like, he wanted to be in the biggest moments and kind of thrived in those moments, which was really good to see. And I think was really good for him to come back in that way, and hopefully gives him a little bit of a head start going into next year, where obviously he'll be a starter for us.
Aaron, is there one guy, and I know you're not going to be able to say the actual guy, but is there one guy above everyone else, whether via trade or free agency, that you're like, that's the guy I want? There is. Okay. So
that's everybody, bro.
No. So I want. So when you guys get Matt Olson, no, I'm just kidding. No, so if you guys get this guy, whoever it is, okay, then afterwards you'll tell us, like, all right, that was the guy. All right, with if you land your fish.
Yes, on episode 5.
Exactly.
We'll do that.
I like it. Just a couple more real quick ones for you. Minor league wise, who's one or two guys who you're looking at and you're saying, I cannot wait to see this guy. Like, I'm a big believer. They're going to make an impact soon, whether it's 2022 or 2023.
Well, I'll give a few guys. I mean, the first two that come to mind are Peraza and Volpe.
Yep.
I think they're legit middle infield, like, play in the league for a long time as impact players. Like, and they're, Peraza got to AAA last year, got his feet wet there. Volpe was in a couple levels of A-ball and went off. And I think they're both going to be really, really good players. Let's see. I thought it was really cool to see what Luis Gil did this year. He wasn't even really on the radar that much, certainly to be in the big leagues this year, but to see him come up and kind of pitch the way he did, have the kind of minor league season that he was able to put together, that's exciting. A guy that really I think in a lot of ways turned his career around and was at a little bit of a crossroads, even though he's still fairly young, was Albert Abreu.
Yep.
When we left spring training, Albert wasn't on the radar. He's on the 40-man for a couple of years, but it struggled through some injuries and
What's going on in Yankee Stadium?
Unbelievable.
Sounds like it's just a drill at least.
Safety
Aaron.
drill.
Yeah.
Safety. All right. So Albert Abreu, like, even though he was on the 40-man, honestly, the first half of the season was not on the, like, we didn't look at him as like, this guy's going to be a contributor or we can count on this guy during the year. He got forced in a little bit because of need and some guys being hurt and injured. And man, he got so much better this year and, pitched in a lot of meaningful games and some big spots. I remember one game, which kind of skewed his overall numbers. He got crushed in Tampa one game, gave up a ton of runs. And you're like, how's he going to respond to this? And his next time out a few days later was like awesome again. And we threw him into some difficult situations where, he was our guy we had to go to, and he delivered. He wanted the ball. So it was fun to see him go from really, in my mind, not even much of a thought of impacting our club to really being a guy that I'm now excited about.
All right, my last one for you, Yanks-wise, off-season, Aaron. I'm just wondering, a lot of people wonder, will Aaron Judge get a big extension, right? If not, he'll be a free agent at the end of this year. If he is going to, the Yankees typically, and there have been some exceptions in recent years, but typically wait till the off-season of the free agency year, right? Mm-hmm. If he doesn't get the big extension, how do you think that affects him this year if he's going into it knowing he's going to be a free agent at the end of the season?
Well, I don't think it'll affect him because he's such a pro. Now you could argue that an extension somehow, takes him to another level, maybe as a leader, obviously the face of this team. I think for me, what's been cool to see about Aaron over the last couple of years, and then even this year and over the last half of the season, is I do feel like he's really coming into his own as a really good leader on this team, where starting to really drag guys along, hold guys to account. He's tough. He plays through things. But I think he's really finding his voice as a leader of this team. And that's been a process over these last few years. He's obviously been our best player and probably the face of our team. But I've really enjoyed seeing, I talked about Giancarlo earlier, but Aaron's that guy that is the leader of this team and the voice of this team. And it's been fun to witness him evolve in that role. And I think really mature over this last year and the second half of the season. And even some of the things he's doing this winter already, as far as engaging coaches, and players, and he's, and obviously coming off a great season, but he's becoming that really complete package, I think, now as his leadership matures.
Mm. And Aaron, we can't let you go without asking you about your Sixers. C, by the way, he's left my Nets. He's now back to the Warriors.
With the Warriors, guys.
He's back with the Warriors.
Of course he is. Of course he is.
We're in first place too, guys.
So your guys' teams will play against each other.
They're chanting MVP at Barclays Center.
Yeah, they were.
Curry, man. There's
chanting MVP everywhere right now for Curry.
Yeesh.
That's an easy move for me, because when they start cheering MVP in a place that I'm supposed to be the fan, no, I'm going back to the Warriors.
So I got to ask you though, Aaron, would you, if you were the Sixers and a Simmons for Kyrie deal was on the table, would you want that if you were the Sixers?
Hell no.
You wouldn't if you were the Sixers?
No, because he ain't playing basketball, cuz.
I think he can live. He could live where he's currently living and play for Jersey. That's the one team he could play for. And play for Philly.
And play for Philly.
One team he could play for.
No.
Right? You take it.
We can win.
Exactly. If you had Kyrie Irving with Embiid,
all
of a sudden that team can win a championship.
Absolutely. But he's not playing basketball right now, cuz, so.
You know what though? Someone needs to grab Simmons.
Yeah,
he's underrated at this point. He's been dogged so much, he's underrated.
Right, and he's young, and he's I just think he goes to the right place and does start to get some semblance of a shot in the right market. And I think he changes a team.
I'm not mad at that. I mean, he's good. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it can. He's got the yips at this point for me.
The playoffs last year was when he
alarming.
Take that layup shot.
Yeah.
Like it was like, it was like, come on, dude.
Yeah,
it's the yips, bro. He's got the yips. I think it's a thing up there now.
I agree, but he's just, man. I think there's teams out there that I think would be smart to go get him, and even give up a premium to get him, because I think if he gets in the right situation, he's that great of a player potentially.
I agree. Defensively, in transition,
defensively and running the point, and at some point he's got to develop. If he truly does want to develop it, like at least a threat of a shot, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because
you would think so, but on the right team, Aaron, I don't even know if he definitely need it. Like, for example, if he was on Brooklyn and you put him in the dunker spot, and then you're having him push the pace a little bit, he like all of a sudden he doesn't have to take big shots, right? Like that's not something that you're ever asking him to do.
Shots, dude. Like last year, game where he took his second shot from 3-pointer of the year. It was like the 20th game. Like, he could be more than that. Though.
That's true. That's true. Oh, that's true. I'm curious because whatever happens with Simmons or Kyrie could change the balance of power in who wins this year, because there's not a lot of separation between the top 7 or 8 teams as long as Kyrie's not playing. If Kyrie's playing, Brooklyn's a lot better than anybody else. But if he's not, they're in the mix, but so are a lot of other teams.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm a little frustrated right now because I do love the Sixers, and I feel like, man, if Simmons was who we want him to be, like they're this like championship caliber franchise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
These years, and it's like, I feel like it's going away and just like kind of becoming, we're wasting Embiid, and they got with Harris and Curry, these guys, they're great. Like, I don't even want to say support players. Curry's more of support. Like Tobias is like a great number 3 player.
Yeah.
Like, if Simmons was who I feel like he could be, like,
you got something. You got something, cuz for real. Yeah,
it's true.
Like, man, to see Embiid get COVID and them struggle on the road, it's like, damn.
I know, man. Well, I'm going to be thinking about both of you when I call Warriors CC's return team that he roots for.
Yeah,
Sixers Wednesday.
Funny you say that. So I didn't watch them last night. They played the Kings, and I was thinking whatever, because I saw the ad for it on ESPN that they're playing the Warriors the last game of their road trip. And my son last night asked me, he goes, "Who do you think tonight?" Because he was with his buddies, like his buddies saying the Kings were going to win. I'm like, I thought they were playing the Warriors last night. My back hurt.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, oh, they ain't winning tonight. Not that last game on the road, but maybe they'll pull it off. Coming off a Kings win,
I bet you Wednesday's a really tight game. I bet you it's a really tight game. I think it will be. Now, whether or not they win is different, but I bet you it's a tight game.
How's Maxey? What do you think?
I like him.
Yeah.
I like him. Yeah.
Although I think he's more of a really good 6th, 7th, 8th. Like, he can come in and score a little bit, run the point, but probably leaves you a little something to be desired as like a championship point.
Right. But you need those kind of guys, right? Like, you need guys who can break down the defense.
That's why they're so close to being really good. Because they have the Maxies and Shake Miltons and Greens and stuff that create that would give them really good championship depth.
See, this is why This is why, if I was them, I would roll the dice on the Kyrie thing, if that was on the table, because I really believe the only thing they're missing is their number 2 guy and him having a little killer in him. They literally have everything else you could possibly want on that team. Even Drummond as a backup center is perfect for that team. Like they've got, and Maxey, in the way he's developed, has replaced kind of what they needed off the bench. Even Furkan has played well for them, Korkmaz. They're only missing that dude, which Simmons could be that dude, but if he's not gonna be, then if I'm them, I just don't think in the NBA you can punt on the chance of a championship when you're knocking on the door.
That other marquee player away from being right in the mix with the couple of best teams.
Yes, they are.
It should be Simmons, but obviously it's not right now, so let's go.
Yeah, let's go get something. And meanwhile, CeCe's about to get Clay back, and then he'll really be in all his Warriors
Clay
stuff.
and Wiseman.
Oh my gosh,
good.
They're set up.
I'm going to Knicks Lakers tonight, though.
Oh, nice. You won't see LeBron James.
Little Knicks Lakers. I didn't see him the last time when I was in Staples. So.
Oh, okay.
It is what it is.
Well, Aaron, first of all, want to wish you and your family a very happy Thanksgiving. And hopefully a swift recovery for your back so that you're able to thoroughly enjoy Thanksgiving. And I can't wait for time number 5 when you let us know if the player you got was the one you were having number 1 on your wish list.
Yeah. Awesome seeing you guys. Love coming on with you. And and we got to talk about what you're doing for us next year, C.
Yeah, let me know. I'm in. As long as it don't mess up my golf game, I'm good.
Priorities.
Right.
Thank you, Aaron.
All right. Thank you, guys. Happy Thanksgiving, man.
Thanks,
Happy
Booney.
Thanksgiving. Thanks for all the time, man.